Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I promise you I'm not bald. I have a little bun back here. I wanted to make this video to kind of piggyback off of the last video I made about Chamberlain and my review and my experiences there. So I got a lot of questions just revolving around that, and I figured why not make another video. If you hear background noise, the kids are out there with Eric running around and doing their thing. I'm in my parents' office, which is, this is their feng shui in their office. So this particular video is going to be revolving around new grads, how to get a job out of nursing school before you even graduate. I got a lot of questions about that, so I figured why not share what I did and what worked for me. I don't know if this is everywhere. I've pretty much seen this everywhere. It's not very common anymore where you can just get a job that's not within a residency program, a nurse residency program. A lot of hospitals, if not all of them now, are doing nurse residency programs, which means that they're hiring new grads straight out of nursing school and acclimating them to their nursing, to their hospital system in a pertaining or a particular unit. You know, they'll hire you before you even graduate for, like in my case, I got hired for the NICU. I'll talk a little bit about how I got hired and what I did. I didn't apply for NICU, even though that's where I got hired. So I'll explain that in a second. So first things first, let's talk about your last bit of nursing school. Obviously you wanna make sure you maintain a good GPA in nursing school. Not everybody's gonna ask you what your GPA was, but it always looks good knowing that you graduated with a 3.0 or higher, especially if you plan on going to grad school. Keep in mind, if you did not graduate with a 3.0 or higher, it's gonna be very difficult for you to get accepted to any grad school program in the realm of nursing, or grad school in general for that matter. And if you graduated with less than a 3.0, they kind of make you take extra classes to bring your GPA up, and then you can start your MSN journey or what have you. So it's gonna cost you a lot more money, take a lot more time, and it's just not the business. You can graduate nursing school with a 2.5, 2.75, whatever the basic requirement is for your program, but and still be a fantastic nurse. That's not an indicator of how good or bad of a nurse you are. But again, it is gonna matter when it comes to going to grad school. So just food for thought. My residency program did wanna know the GPA of the person applying for the program. So if you're you have a 2.2 or something like that, or 2.5, the bare minimum, you might not make the cut. So that is super important to make sure your grades are up and staying up. And if right now you're toward the end of your program and you have mediocre grades, you wanna work your butt off to make sure that your grades are going up. Another thing that's obviously impressive on a resume that'll look good to residency programs, volunteer work, becoming a part of the National Nurses Student Association, becoming a part of, graduating with high honors, being a part of clubs, especially if you're an active member of the club, like a president or a treasurer or something to that nature, in the specific unit that you want to work in. So if you want to work in labor and delivery, you were the president of L&D club. That just help you stand out among the other people that are applying for that position. Fast forward to residency applications. Most of them will stay in line with when students are graduating. So they know, okay, new grads are graduating in December, they're graduating in August, so usually they'll open their residency programs around that time. So you wanna be in first come, first serve. I know that I literally, and it might sound a little neurotic, it probably is neurotic, I put my application in at midnight the day that it opened. I wanted to make sure that my application was the first in there, that it was nice and it was clean and it was everything that they were looking for in a candidate. I made sure my resume was perfect. I had it reviewed by my mom, because my mom has been doing resumes for a long time, and just made sure that it was everything that my hospital system was looking for when choosing somebody for residency. Now, I was a part of the pediatrics club in nursing school. I didn't graduate with high honors, that's for damn sure, okay? I graduated with over a 3.0, but I was not part of Sigma Theta, whatever that thing is, and cum laude. I was not that kind of student. But I was a strong enough student where I had above a 3.0 GPA, and that right there says, okay, at least this student, to them, again, this says she applied herself, she studied hard to maintain that GPA, because that's not an easy thing to do when you're in a nursing program, especially one like mine that was so accelerated. So that's one thing, having a really strong resume. Aside from having your strong resume and making sure you apply first or on time, other things that are going to help strengthen you as not only as a new grad, but not only on your resume, but also as a new grad nurse. If you have CNA, PCA, LPN experience, working in a hospital anywhere, if you did environmental services and you worked in that hospital and you're applying to that same hospital as a nurse, that shows, oh, this is already an employee of our hospital system. Oh, look, she's been working as a PCA for 2 years in PICU and she wants to work in PICU as a nurse. You're gonna stand out because you've already dedicated that time. You've already gotten some experience on that floor working under a nurse. Like I said, even if you worked for EDS, environmental services, that still shows your dedication to the hospital system. And that means something. It should mean something. They should value you as an employee. And if not, nah, go somewhere else. Go somewhere else. If they don't hire you first, go somewhere else. So we talked about what to do in nursing school. You want to be a part of clubs. You want to have a strong GPA. We talked about what kind of experience you should have beforehand. You want to try and be a PCA, CNA, LPN, whatever. Try to get a job within your hospital system while you're in nursing school, even if that means transportation, like transporting patients throughout the hospital. Things like that will still give you a leg up on somebody who's externally applying toward the same position that you are. So trying to be a part of that hospital system. If you can't get a job in the hospital, what you can do is at least get a job outside the hospital that's gonna help you your skill set. For example, I know that nurse managers, for some reason or another, they like hiring servers, people who were servers before. It makes sense. You worked in customer service, your time management is down, you're used to handling 5-6 tables at once. Those tables signify your patience. So if you had 5 or 6 tables at once and you're managing all these tables and everybody leaves your restaurant happy, those are happy patients at the end of the day. That's kind of how they're acclimating, or that's how they're associating serving with being a nurse. Huge association there. And if they don't bring that up to you and you're in the interview, you can easily say like, hey, I was a server. It might not sound applicable, but let me tell you why it is applicable in a nursing scenario. That'll help right there, and it'll be like, you know, good for experience and skill set. So moving on to like preparing yourself for an interview. Now, you applying to the residency program is one thing. Like I said, you want to be on time. You want to have a strong resume. I got hired, in my case, they were hiring nurses before the NCLEX. So basically you got hired, but you couldn't start working until you got your license. I'm pretty sure they're all like that. And if so, that can put some pressure under your butt to pass your NCLEX on your first time, as if it's not already stressful. But, you know, I just took it one step at a time. I got hired in like December, and I wasn't supposed to take my boards until January, the following month. So that did put a lot of pressure on me to pass on the first time, and I'll get into how I passed on the first time. I might make a separate video about that if you guys want, I don't know. I'm a strong believer that early bird gets the worm, squeaky wheel gets the oil. When I say that, I mean that I was calling, I wasn't like annoying, but basically I applied, like I said, I got my interview, and I had worked for my hospital system before. Again, huge thing. I worked for my hospital system before as a patient financial rep, like scheduling appointments and stuff. I told you guys that in my last video. So that's the same hospital system that I'm with now. So that right there again shows, oh, she worked as a patient service rep for 2 years. She left, went to nursing school, came right back, like full circle. So I knew that they liked Chamberlain nurses. So my interview went phenomenal. I'll talk about my interview in a second, but and give you guys some good interview tips. But my interview went phenomenal. I left there like, okay, I definitely got it. I did my first interview. I got a call back for my second interview and a call back for a third interview. Those are all good signs, right? So after the third interview, I was like, I got this in the bag. Like, there's no way they're not gonna hire me. Like, I went through 3 interview processes. I got this. Except when I didn't get a call. All my friends, because I actually work with a lot of people that I went to nursing school with, like in my unit. So several of my friends had already gotten hired. And I'm like, why am I not getting a phone call? Like, did I not get hired? Mind you, this was the only job I applied to. Like, I really wanted to work for this hospital system. I didn't want to work for anywhere else. All of the other residency programs, like in my area, were the deadlines were coming up, like fast approaching. And I still wasn't hearing back from my hospital. So I straight up called. I called the director of the residency program herself. I said, hi ma'am, I did 3 interviews with you guys. What's up? Where the money at? And she goes, oh, I didn't want to ruin the surprise, but you did get hired by us. It just took a little longer to like go through your file and stuff because you're a previous employee. So it took a little longer to get through all of that and talk to your previous managers and stuff like that before we called you, but you did get hired. That right there was a huge relief. I was so happy. And I could breathe. I'm like that type of person. I'm anxious until I get the results, until I get the information. Like I don't like waiting for things. So I did call. I'm not gonna front. I did call, and there's nothing wrong with that. With calling and checking up the status of your application, and just, you know, not being annoying, but calling once or twice. I don't see anything wrong with that. But that's on you and your confidence level. If you think the interview went poorly, I probably wouldn't call and follow up and be like, hey, did I get hired? That's not the way to word it. But just, you know, contacting the person that you spoke to or the director or something and just saying, I'd like to, you know, just follow up on the status of my application and when candidates would be hearing back on whether or not they were selected for this position. That's a perfect way to word it. If you didn't get a call back for a second interview, you probably didn't get the job. And at that point, you want to make sure you're moving on and applying to other positions, because you don't want to get stuck where, you know, like me, I took a huge chance doing that, but I don't advise anybody else do that. Like, you don't want to apply to one job and then all the other opportunities, the door shuts, and then you're out of luck, you know what I mean? So make sure that you are, you've done the research on all of the hospitals you want to apply to, you know the deadlines for their residencies, and you apply to all of them. Just don't limit yourself. Like, the world is your oyster when you are a new grad nurse. Trust me, the world is your oyster. When I applied for my residency program, it was to the hospital. It was to just the children's hospital. It wasn't to any specific unit. How they did this was they said, okay, here's the hospital you're applying to. These are the openings in which you can be hired by. And it said like PICU, Peds ER, NICU, IMCU, oncology, I think pediatric oncology, and like one other. There was like 6 different units. So their idea, or the way that they were supposed to structure my residency program, was we're gonna hire all the candidates straight to the hospital. That's Rain screaming. Hire all the applicants straight to the hospital, let them float around to each unit for like a month, and then we were supposed to decide where we want to go. So we decide, oh, I floated around to PICU, NICU, IMCU, whatever. I really like PICU. I want to go to PICU. And then, you know, it's kind of like dating, like speed dating, if you will. And then finding the best fit for you. So that's what we were kind of sold on, and that's what we were expecting to happen. But unfortunately, after getting hired, that's not what happened. It turns out that Peds ER got full really fast. Peds oncology got full really fast. All they had left was NICU, PICU, IMCU. Long story short, I got placed in the NICU because that's where they needed the most nurses. They needed like 10 nurses or something in NICU. So I didn't select NICU as my first choice. I wanted pediatric ER as my first choice, but God had other plans and I ended up in the NICU. I'm pretty sure that now the way they're doing it, at least I know my hospital now, the way they're doing it is they're hiring nurses, new grads, straight to the unit. Like, you know that you're applying for nurse residency NICU. You know exactly where you're going, and there's no surprises and there's no changes in that. So my residency program was only the 2nd cohort that my hospital had. So they were still trying to figure it out. I think how they're facilitating it now is way better because you know exactly where you're going and it's exactly where you apply to. So that's good. Like, I had a friend that started after me and she got hired straight to NICU, which is where she always wanted to be. So it's like a match made right there. And I'm pretty sure that's how most hospital systems are doing it now, be it adult or pediatrics. Talking about your interview now. They call you, they say, hey, let's bring her in for him or her in for an interview. What do? If you are not like me, I am a very vocal and I think I'm a strong speaker, public speaker naturally. I don't get nervous, I don't get anxious, I don't get jittery. You know, I feel like I can speak in front of 500 people and be super comfortable. So for me, it's easy to go in and just naturally be myself and be really relaxed. And I feel like the more relaxed you are, the more, you know, fluid your interview will go. If you're really uptight and anxious and nervous and sweating, you know, granted, they're gonna have some grace on you. They know you're a new grad. They know this is your first nursing job ever, your first opportunity. So they're gonna have grace on you for being nervous, but you don't want your nerves and your anxiety to like overpower you and what you have to offer and bring to the table. So I would definitely kind of practice how you want the interview to go and manifest how you want that interview to go. You want to be relaxed. You're going to allow for anxiety to be present, but not to take over your interview, okay? You're going to be prepared. You're going to bring 10 copies of your resume. Yes, 10, because you're not interviewing with one person or two. You don't know how many people you're interviewing with. I went in thinking I was going to interview with just like I didn't know, I wasn't sure, but I just brought a ton of copies, and thank God I did. I had like 11 people that I was interviewing with at first. And that was the nurse manager from each unit. Each and every unit was there. So I had a copy of my resume, a hard copy, to hand out to each and every person. That right there spoke volumes. You know what else I had on there? A photo, a professional headshot, small, like kind of like wallet size, attached to my resume, so they remembered me and remembered what I looked like. I know nobody else did that. Don't show up with donuts and candy like that bribery. That's kind of corny, in my opinion. But I did have a photo of me attached to my resume in a file, very nice and neat in a file. And everybody got their own envelope with my resume and my photo just to remember me. And I know that was a good idea, because even after the director of nursing or the director of the residency program took a picture of every single girl, but not of me. She was, oh, I already have your files, your photos, and she left it in the envelope. And I was like, perfect chef's kiss, Liz. Genius thinking of that, because she had to line up. Okay, Allison, it was who again? Let's take a picture of Allison and match it up. Let's take a picture of Jennifer and match it up. So for me, that's what I did, and it worked out. And I think it was a really a touch that kind of stood out among me and the other candidates. So aside from bringing copies of your resume with you, you want to be prepared to answer their questions. They might be a little unique and like kind of just do a self-led interview, but chances are they're not going to. Chances are HR or whomever provided them with like a list of questions that they're supposed to ask you and whatever. And those are pretty generic questions, like across the board. They're questions like, you know, how do you handle conflict, strengths and weaknesses, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years, things like that. So you want to be prepared to answer those general questions, which I feel like can be a little bit more challenging than just natural questions like, tell us about yourself. Why do you want to be a nurse? Those questions are going to come up too. And you want to have genuine answers, but not cliche answers. Why do you want to be a nurse? I really care about people. Like, okay, like, and I don't want to have this like just this Googled answer, if you will. So if they ask you, why do you care? Why do you want to be a nurse? Why did you go to nursing school? I straight up told them, I said, you know, I was never that child who always knew she wanted to be a nurse. I had a very rough journey until I came here today, or past nursing school. I worked, you know, and you're gonna obviously state these things professionally. I worked very hard in nursing school. It was challenging for me, but overcoming that obstacle made me even more proud of this profession. Do I want to care for people? Am I compassionate? Yes, but it's more than that. You know, you want to sell them. I believe that nursing is not only just a profession, it's a calling. It's a characteristic. You want to say things like that I embody, you know. You want to use your big girl words too, okay? So you're basically telling that you're caring and compassionate, but with more zhuzh, you know what I mean? Like more frill, more filling in there. That you're selling them, but it doesn't feel like they're being sold on you, if that makes sense, okay? So that's how you would answer a why do you want to be a nurse question, okay? You can certainly say, and be honest, like, I've always wanted to be a nurse. I said I love the hospital. I don't know what it is, but when I would walk into a hospital as a non-employee, just like with my kid or, you know, for care that I needed, you know, I always saw the nurse and says, man, I want to do what they're doing. They're doing a job that's giving back to this community, that's giving back to the world, that's helping people. I want to do that for a living. You can also throw in, I've come to certain hospitals and been cared for, and it hasn't been the best care, and that just showed me that I want to be a nurse that does better. You know, you can kind of throw all of those things in there in combination with each other to express yourself into why you want to be a nurse. They might not ask you, why do you want to work for ABC hospital? You know what I mean? But you can say, I've applied to this position solely because I embody your mission statement. The mission statement that your hospital system claims is something that I wish to embody as a nurse. You know, so, and you want to look that up, and you want to say, oh, I know ABC hospital has been around for over 100 years, servicing this community and that community. I know that that they're striving to be in a magnet hospital, and I have a bachelor's degree, or I'm working toward a bachelor's degree, things like that. So you want to have history and knowledge on the hospital system, so they state you've done your research and you're not just applying to any job because you want a job. Okay, that's really important. Another challenging question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? They will probably all ask y'all this question, okay? One thing you don't want to say, girl, don't say it. Do not say, oh, in 5 years, I plan to be a nurse practitioner. What they're hearing is, in 5 years, I plan to be out of this unit and making more money somewhere else, or I plan to be taking your job. No, okay? In 5 years, the way that you can answer that question is, in 5 years, I really hope to grow within this unit. I really hope to establish a strong skill set. I really hope to climb the clinical ladder. I would love to be a charge nurse or a nurse educator on this floor. I'm really passionate about neuro or oncology. You know, your 5 years of growth needs to be within that unit, okay? Even if you only plan on staying there for 2 years or a year, your 5-year plan needs to be within their units. They see that you want to dedicate your time, dedicate your skills and everything to their unit, and you're going to be an asset to them, not take away from them, okay? So make sure that your goals are all within NICU, if that's what you're trying to do, okay? And again, things like charge nurse, very attainable. I plan to attain my CCRN after 2 years, and precept and things like that. That's what they're going to want to hear. So remember, very important to say that, and I promise you that will stick out to them. I promise you that'll stick out to them. But God, no, don't say nurse practitioner. Don't say, oh, I plan to be teaching at, you know, at Duke University. Like, don't say anything like that. Make sure your goals are in line with what's going to be an asset to them, okay? Lastly, for interviews, how to dress. Now, you're gonna, once you like get hired and you're working, y'all see, I got tattoos and everything. Like, I have nurses that have full sleeves, obviously no neck or facial tattoos. That's just a no-no overall in healthcare. You won't be, and it's sad, it's so sad, but you won't be taken seriously. It'll be very hard to get a position if you have a neck tattoo or a facial tattoo. If you do, cover it up. That's all I'm saying. Cover it up for your interview. You'll see, like I said, nurses with full sleeves. For your interview, you want to dress modestly, even if that's not your natural thing. You don't want to go in with your tattoos out and your cleavage out, because this is who I am. Like, that's not what's important to them, and that's not what's going to get you hired, okay? You want to dress modestly, business casual, a blouse, some slacks, a little, you know, a small heel, a blazer, something like that. Your hair back or neatly down, light makeup, like very, you know, very traditional of what you would think. You just want to think that, like, whoever's interviewing you is like your grandma's Mormon person, okay? Your grandma's Mormon neighbor, okay? The most conservative person you can think of. Just prepare to impress your grandma, okay? Your grandma don't want to see no tattoos and facial piercings and stuff. Take all that out, look as professional as, you know, societal standards call professional. You want to look like that, I promise you. You don't want to stand out too much. You don't want to wear super bright colors either, okay? Black and white, just neutrals, nudes, navy, whatever. The boring stuff, you know what I mean? Then you can be expressive when you actually become a nurse and you can wear whatever you want. Pray about this. You want to manifest this. I got this position. I got this. I got this. Manifest it. That, I can't tell you how much that works, y'all. Don't go in, or don't leave your interview saying, oh my God, that was horrible. I don't think I got it, blah, blah, blah. Like, you want to go in confidently so you can walk out confidently. And all of that just revolves around, you know, letting those insecurities go. Walking into that interview, being as calm as you can be. Pretend you're talking to a friend. Pretend it's a friend and just relax. Get through it. Don't be jittery, don't be shaky, but feel, you know, you want to feel very relaxed without seeming cocky. You don't want to seem like, oh, I got this necessarily, but you don't want to be on the verge of like peeing on yourself, okay? So manifest it, pray about it, and if it's a fit for you, God will grant it to you. If not, you move on to the next. It is not the end of the world if you don't get that job at that time, okay? Move on to the next. But I promise you guys, you will definitely benefit from these tips that I'm giving you, okay? You want to make sure you're writing this down. You want to benefit from this, okay? Really quickly too, I wanted to touch base on like choosing your nursing specialty and being very careful with who you choose, okay? Now, again, for me, I wanted to go to pediatric ER. Did I end up there? No, I ended up in NICU. NICU is such a specialized like niche. It literally doesn't apply to any other unit. It is so individualized and specialized that it's hard to like transfer somewhere else. So now I am applying for positions outside of the NICU. I'm applying for adult positions. I have an interview next week with a neuro unit. So I think that it's important to really make sure, okay, if I want to be in this NICU or whatever, you know, I'm going to dedicate at least 2 years. You want at least 2 years in your specialty, no matter, or any floor that you're on, no matter where it is. That way you gain your 2 years of experience and you're more marketable. Now, had I gone to med surg, I'd be way more marketable right now. I could have gotten the ER job that I applied for an ER job last week. I didn't get it because from NICU to ER, It's like oranges and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like they have nothing to do with each other, okay? So I need a leeway. So I know, okay, if I get on a neuro floor or a med surg floor, a tele floor, that's at least more applicable to the ER than the NICU is, if that makes sense. So I know that when all of my friends went for all this COVID pay, well, Eric's walking back there. All my friends went to transfer to work overtime for COVID. I couldn't do that because I hadn't worked with adults. I couldn't even remember adult vital signs. It was that bad. So remembering that, there's so much going on. Sorry guys. Remembering that, you know, your specialty might not be easy to transfer, like even travel nursing, or I was looking for agency nursing and travel nursing, and there's not many NICU openings for those positions, unfortunately, because there's such a low turnover rate. So just keep that in mind. Like, you want to be marketable and have a skill set. I wish, and this might sound crazy, I wish I started off in med surg. I'm gonna just say it. The place that nobody wants to go to, I wish I started off with med surg, because I feel like med surg nurses have like the most bomb skill set ever. They can do it all. They can time manage. And me, I'm used to managing 2 and 3 patients at a time. Like 5 and 6 patients just sounds like crazy to me. And some of them being total care, I'm like, whoa, keep me away. So that's something to consider, and be sure that you want to be in your specialty before you actually accept that application or even apply to that position, okay? Make sure you know. My last tip is to follow up with, do you mind? My last tip is to follow up with, Eric's mocking me, my God. Follow up with a thank you email, okay? Nobody does this, and everybody should. Even if your email went totally south, even if your interview went totally south, you're gonna get that person's information when you leave. They're gonna give you their card, and if they don't, you ask for their card. Each and every person that you sat before, you wanna send them a thank you email. Just thank you for the opportunity to interview with you. I'm very, interested in your hospital system. I valued your time, and I hope that, I'm a candidate that's being considered for hire. That's it. Just 2 sentences thanking them for their time. That's gonna be like, oh yeah, I forgot Liz applied. Let me go back and look. You never know where their mindset is at. So send that follow-up email. You will not regret it. You might not hear back from them, but they got that email, and you never know where that email is gonna lead you. So definitely send a thank you follow-up email. And lastly, guys, I'm gonna make a totally separate video on NCLEX. Do not let the NCLEX stress you, y'all. Do not let it stress you. The NCLEX is so much easier than nursing school. I promise you that. I really am gonna make a whole bomb video on how to pass NCLEX on the first try, and why you can do it, and why, more importantly, why you should not stress about it, okay? You should not stress. I left NCLEX, I already knew I passed. I walked out, I was like, I definitely passed that test, because I studied the algorithm of NCLEX. So we'll talk about that in the next video, but I really hope that this video was very insightful and helpful to any new graduate nurses. And you don't have to be a new grad, just applying for a new position within a hospital system, period. I really hope that this video gave you guys some helpful information and helpful tips, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace, guys.